Every NBA fan has asked this question. What if? What if injuries never happened? What if a player stayed healthy? What if a superstar never got suspended, traded, or held back by circumstances? Some players showed flashes of greatness. Others were already becoming legends before everything changed. Today, we're counting down the 10 biggest what if players in NBA history. Players whose careers could have looked completely different if things had gone another way. And make sure you stay until number one because his story might be the biggest missed opportunity in basketball history. Let's get into it. Before injuries slowed him down, Penny Hardaway looked like the future of the NBA. At 6'7", he had the size of a forward, the passing ability of an elite point guard, and enough skill to score from almost anywhere. In the mid-1990s, Penny and Shaquille O'Neal turned the Orlando Magic into one of the most exciting teams in basketball. Penny was a four-time All-Star, made multiple All-NBA teams, and even finished near the top of the MVP voting. But knee injuries changed everything. His athleticism slowly disappeared, and the superstar career many people expected never fully happened. What if Penny stayed healthy? Could he and Shaq have built a dynasty in Orlando, or will someone else accomplish that? Brandon Roy was different. He wasn't the fastest player or the highest jumper, but his footwork, scoring ability, and calmness in big moments made him one of the best guards in the league. He won Rookie of the Year, became a three-time All-Star, and looked like the player who could lead the Portland Trail Blazers for years. Then knee problems became too serious to overcome. Roy's career ended far earlier than anyone expected. And the crazy part is that he was still only in his mid-20s when his prime was already slipping away. Could Portland have become a championship contender? Greg Oden entered the NBA with massive expectations. He was selected first overall in the 2007 NBA draft, ahead of Kevin Durant. At that time, that decision made sense. Oden was a dominant center with elite size, strength, defense, and rebounding, but injuries kept him off the court for most of his career. When he did play, he showed flashes of what made him such a highly rated prospect. The problem was that his body never gave him a real chance to develop. What if Greg Oden stayed healthy? Would Portland have chosen the right player? Could he have become one of the best centers of his generation? Before injuries, Grant Hill was one of the most complete players in basketball. He could score, pass, rebound, defend, and lead the offense. Some players even believe he could become the next Michael Jordan. During his early years with the Detroit Pistons, Hill was already one of the league's biggest stars, but repeated ankle injuries took away much of his athletic ability. He still had a long NBA career, which makes his story even more impressive. But fans will always wonder what could have happened if he never got hurt. What if Grant Hill stayed healthy? Would he have become an MVP or even won the championship? Tracy McGrady was one of the smoothest scorers the NBA has ever seen. At his peak, he could score from anywhere. He won two straight scoring titles and became one of the most talented players in the league. T-Mac had the size, athleticism, shooting, and creativity to dominate almost any defender, but injuries slowly affected his career. And despite all his talent, he never made it past the first round during his prime. What if Tracy McGrady stayed healthy and had better playoff luck? Could he have won an MVP? Could he have become an NBA champion? And one of the most famous what ifs in NBA history, Derrick Rose. At just 22 years old, Derrick Rose became the youngest MVP in NBA history. He was unbelievably fast, explosive, and fearless around the rim. Rose made the Chicago Bulls look like real championship contenders again. Then, during the 2012 playoffs, everything changed. A major knee injury kept him out for a long time, and more injuries followed. Rose eventually returned and rebuilt his career, which earned him a lot of respect. But was his peak cut short? What if Derrick Rose never got injured? Could he have led Chicago to a championship again? Would he have become one of the best point guards ever? Yao Ming changed basketball. At 7'6", he had incredible size, but he was also skilled, coordinated, and a strong shooter. He became one of the best centers in the NBA and helped make basketball even more popular around the world. But foot and leg injuries repeatedly kept him off the court. His career ended much earlier than expected. And when Yao and Tracy McGrady were healthy, the Houston Rockets looked like they could compete with any team. What if Yao stayed healthy? Could he and T-Mac have won a championship together? Len Bias was one of the most exciting college basketball players of his era. He was drafted second overall by the Boston Celtics in 1986. Many people believed he had the talent to become a future NBA superstar. He was expected to learn from legends like Larry Bird and help extend Boston's championship window. But Bias never played an NBA game. His story became one of the most tragic what-ifs in sports history because we never got to see what he could become at the professional level. What if Len Bias had entered the NBA and reached his potential? Could he have become the next great Celtics superstar? Bill Walton actually reached the top. He won an NBA championship and was named Finals MVP. He also won a regular season MVP. At his best, Walton was one of the smartest and most complete centers in basketball. He could pass, rebound, defend, and control the entire game. But injuries repeatedly interrupted his career. Even though he became a Hall of Famer, fans still wonder how much greater his career could have been. What if Bill Walton had stayed healthy? Could he have won multiple championships and become one of the greatest centers ever? Ralph Sampson had everything. He was 7'4", athletic, skilled, and incredibly mobile for his size. Before entering the NBA, he was one of the most dominant college players ever. Then, in the NBA, he teamed up with Hakeem Olajuwon to create the Twin Towers in Houston. The Rockets reached the NBA Finals, and Sampson looked like he could become one of the league's greatest stars. But injuries slowly took away his mobility and ended his prime early. And that leads to one huge question. What if Ralph Sampson stayed healthy? Could Houston have won multiple championships? Could Sampson and Hakeem have become the greatest big man duo ever? Could Sampson have become one of the greatest players in NBA history? We'll never know. But his potential was something special. Every player on this list has something in common. They showed the world how great they could be. But circumstances stopped us from seeing the full story. Some were held back by injuries, some never got the right opportunity, and some left behind a question that NBA fans may debate forever. What if? Which NBA player do you think had the biggest missed potential? And who did I leave off the list? Comment your answer below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more sports content. And remember, in basketball, sometimes the biggest legends are the ones we never got to see at their full potential. Thank you for watching.